Grand Admiral Thraxis of the Satyrian Imperium surveyed the tactical display with satisfaction. 500 warships arranged in perfect formation, the mightiest fleet ever assembled in the history of the 12 core systems. Today would mark the final subjugation of the Pleiades Confederation, a long-overdue addition to the Empire's growing territories. "All battle groups report ready, Admiral," announced Fleet Commander Lorvath, her scaled skin gleaming under the command deck's azure lighting. "The Confederation has mustered only 37 vessels. Their destruction is inevitable." Thraxis nodded, mandibles clicking in the Satyrian expression of pleasure. "Commence the approach. Standard intimidation protocol. Let them witness their doom." Advancing with imperial precision, the massive fleet shifted, forming the legendary Spear of Dominion formation that had broken the will of countless civilizations before battle even commenced. The Satyrian way of war was as psychological as it was tactical. "Unknown spatial distortion detected," called out Sensor Officer Belkoth, his dorsal spines rising in alarm. "Massive energy signature. It's impossible." A blinding flash erupted in the middle of the perfect formation, sending nearby Satyrian vessels scrambling to avoid collision. When the tactical display stabilized, Thraxis stared in disbelief at what appeared. A single vessel, smaller than the Imperium's main battle cruisers, but radiating power readings that defied comprehension. Its hull was matte black, absorbing rather than reflecting light, broken only by glowing blue lines that pulsed with unknown energy. No visible weapons, yet every instinct in Thraxis's ancient body screamed danger. "Classification?" he demanded, his composure cracking. "Unknown," Lorvath replied, frantically accessing the database. "Match against all known vessels in the Imperial Registry. Negative. Matching against historical archives. Negative. Matching against theoretical designs. Negative." The intruder hung motionless, seemingly unconcerned by the hundreds of warships surrounding it. Then, a transmission cut through every communication channel simultaneously, bypassing encryption protocols as if they didn't exist. "This is Captain Ravaz Ortelian of the Terran Alliance vessel Indomitable," announced a calm voice in perfect Satyrian. "You have entered territory under the protection of humanity. The Pleiades Confederation has requested our assistance. Your fleet will power down weapons and withdraw immediately." Stunned silence filled the command deck. No one had ever dared issue ultimatums to the Satyrian Imperium. Preposterous! Thraxis recovered, rage building. "One vessel against 500? Surround and obliterate this human vessel." The nearest Satyrian cruisers moved to engage, charging their primary weapons. Before they could fire, the Indomitable simply shifted, not with the flash of conventional propulsion or the distortion of warp drives, but instant repositioning that defied physics as the Satyrians understood it. "Targeting systems cannot lock," reported the weapons officer, panic evident. "The vessel is simultaneously registering in multiple locations." The human ship reappeared directly before the Satyrian flagship, a small projectile, barely visible, on sensors, launched toward one of the attacking cruisers. Upon impact, a sphere of absolute darkness expanded, then collapsed, taking the cruiser with it. Where a mighty Imperial warship had been, now existed only empty space. What weapon is this?" whispered Lorvath. The human voice returned, still unnervingly calm. "That was a demonstration. A singularity torpedo, one of our lesser armaments. Your military technology is approximately 300 years behind ours. This is your final warning." Thraxis felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries of military service. Fear. "Battle stations," roared Thraxis, his pride overwhelming. "Reason. All vessels concentrate fire. No single ship can withstand the full might of the Imperium." The space around the human vessel erupted with energy as hundreds of Satyrian warships unleashed their arsenals simultaneously. Plasma bolts, quantum torpedoes, and particle beams converged on the Indomitable's position in a display of firepower sufficient to shatter a small moon. When the barrage ended and sensors cleared, the human ship remained untouched, surrounded by a faintly shimmering field that had absorbed or deflected everything thrown at it. "Impossible," breathed Thraxis, the Indomitable responded, not with weapons, but by broadcasting on all frequencies a series of images, thousands of similar. Vessels under construction, orbital platforms that dwarfed cities, defense systems integrated into planets themselves. And finally, a navigational chart showing human territory, a vast section of the galaxy previously thought uninhabited or unexplored. "The Terran Alliance has observed your empire's expansion for decades," explained Captain Ortelian. "We preferred to remain in peaceful isolation, but your aggression against developing civilizations has crossed a threshold we cannot ignore." Before Thraxis could respond, his tactical officer called out in alarm. Multiple spatial ruptures detected, energy signatures matching the human vessel. Across the formation, 20 more human ships materialized, each identical to the first. They positioned themselves in a perfect geometric arrangement that somehow made Thraxis's magnificent fleet look disorganized and primitive by comparison. "You see only a reconnaissance squadron," continued Ortelian. "The Terran Third Fleet awaits my signal 1 light minute from here. 200 vessels carrying weaponry that could reduce your homeworld to atomic particles." On the command deck of the Imperial flagship, Lorvath approached Thraxis, speaking in a hushed tone. "Admiral, our intelligence has completely failed us. If these humans wished our destruction, we would already be dead." Thraxis knew she was right. In his 9 centuries of life, he had never witnessed technology so advanced. The gap was not incremental but fundamental, as if comparing stone spears to fusion bombs. "Open a direct channel," he ordered, mandibles trembling slightly. "To the human captain only." When connected, Thraxis spoke with dignity despite his fear. "Captain Ortelian of Terra, I propose immediate cessation of hostilities and withdrawal of Imperial forces from the Pleiades region, pending diplomatic discussion." There was a pause before the human responded. "Accepted, Admiral. The Terran Alliance seeks cooperation, not conquest. We will provide coordinates for a neutral meeting ground where representatives of our civilizations can establish formal relations." As the Satyrian fleet began its humbling retreat, Thraxis stared at the visual feed showing the human captain, a being physically unimpressive by Satyrian standards, yet commanding technologies that rendered the Empire's greatest achievements obsolete. "Commander Lorvath," he said quietly, "update the Imperial Threat Assessment Matrix. Classification, Terran Alliance. Threat level, Omega. Recommended approach, absolute diplomatic priority." Lorvath hesitated. "Omega? That classification hasn't been used since the ancient archives of the First Empire." "Because we haven't encountered a civilization capable of ending ours with a thought," replied Thraxis. "Until today." As the Indomitable and its companions vanished as mysteriously as they had appeared, Thraxis realized that the galaxy had suddenly become a much larger, more complex place. The Satyrian Imperium, which had thought itself the pinnacle of evolution, had just discovered it was merely one voice in a conversation that had been ongoing without its knowledge. The age of unchallenged. Satyrian expansion had ended. The age of humanity had begun.